You know, when we think back in history, one thing about history, it doesn't repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes. I think about, back to the Roman times when they had coins. And back then they couldn't print money, so what they would do is they would clip the coins. So they would melt them all down and then make them smaller and then bring them back out to the people, which obviously led to recessions and even at that point, depression. So the question today is, are we in a recession or a depression? So in a recession, typically, and this is, once again, we are going to speak in general terms right now because there's so many different factors. For example, if you looked on the back of a can of Coke and you wanted to make soda in your basement that was equivalent to what was in the can of Coke and you had all the ingredients and the measurements, you still wouldn't be able to do it. It's no different than when, the government lets us know if we're in a recession or a depression. But for example, officially today, beginning ending, I should say, in February of 128 months straight where, we had an increase, we are officially in a recession. You could call it a COVID recession, and a typical recession lasts 2 to 4 quarters, but you always want to double check everything I'm saying, so all your decision and information really is backed by other opinions, or I should say is backed by other people's points of view, which kind of plays into the different characteristics when they come out with these silly definitions of a recession, how many quarters, is it tied to a GDP, and what all that looks like. The truth of the matter is, if you think of inflation here in New Jersey, my inflation rate is different than the folks that are behind the camera, which is different than somebody in Texas or South Dakota. But if you Google the national inflation rate, it may say 2 to 3%. So once you begin to really educate yourself and understand all the different information that's going on out there today, it's really important that you I dot T cross, interview a lot of different folks, read different books, so all of your information is very, very clear, and you get to kind of look at a seesaw and figure out, okay, on the financial scale of justice, what does this actually look like if I factor this versus that, if I live here, if I live there. All of these things matter. What I can say for sure, though, in my lifetime, and apparently it hasn't happened in 100 years, we have never seen a global recession like we are in right now because of COVID-19. So, when I think about what's happening right now, and I always like to go back in time. I remember when COVID first hit in March, the first thing I did is I wanted to educate myself on how many people got affected around the world, how many people got affected here in America, what was the common thread of herd immunity versus not doing herd immunity, all these different things I looked into. And I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor, but it was important for me so I could gather as much information when I was talking to my clients, I could distill an educated point of view and give them some sort of guidance. Remember, everything that in our world, it's all about outpacing inflation first, looking for guarantees and secure investments, and then off of that, tied to your economic philosophy, tied to your goals and objectives, all the other opportunities come your way when it comes to alternatives and or financing your own debt or, basically becoming your own bank on things that you would typically finance. That's really the way we look at it. With that being said, if we now focus on a depression, basically if a recession lasts for over 3 years, you're in a depression, right? The last time there was a pandemic was 1918, the Spanish flu. However, 12 years later, the depression started 1929, that lasted to 1945. Is that going to happen again? I don't know. What I do know is they're printing a whole bunch of money. Everyone's assets are worth less because of more money's flooding the system, and that tied into what we spoke about in the beginning of the video back into the Roman times. We like to make sure that there's a full education on what's happening. So we're in a recession. Do I know what's going to happen in the future? Absolutely not. Do I know that winter comes if there's an economic philosophy and a desire to really be put in a position to take advantage of opportunities that come our way or your way? The answer is 100% yes. And staying in that place of education, remember, when you're interviewing a financial advisor, an insurance agent, a trust officer, an accountant, they're not paying you, you're paying them. And it's very important that you take them through a full questionnaire process that in the end, you want to make sure that they're open enough So the right hand could speak to the left hand, that they could work with the other planners. If that happens, you'll put yourself in a position to prosper, whether we're in a recession, whether we're in a depression, because I can tell you right now, recession or depression, the greatest economic surges happen during those times. Some of the best companies that we know as of today were born in depressions and recessions. Anyway, we're pushing content every day. We're providing world-class education with a world-class team. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. We want to continue to give information out. And by the way, please add some comments, have some questions, and one of the team members will get back to you.